a retired educator with over 30 years of experience in the field. Early in my career, I worked in a special education classroom with 12 incredible students ranging from kindergarten to sixth grade, quite a large classroom. I vividly recall searching for innovative ways to connect with students who faced unique challenges, including those who were nonverbal due to medical reasons. One student in particular stands out in my memory. She was unable to speak at all except for one syllable words. Determined to help her express her needs, I explored various tools and discovered a program that allowed her to communicate through pressing buttons with pictures. It was quite the learning experience for her and for me. However, as I continued researching, I realized there are both significant advantages and potential drawbacks to using AI in education, particularly for people with disabilities. Today, I am honored and so happy to have a conversation with Rose Hill. Rose is a certified peer counselor specializing in trauma and crisis counseling at Crisis Connections in Seattle. She's particularly concerned about how AI is impacting the mental health of youth. Rose, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start by learning more about you, and could you share a little bit about your background and explain what AI is, especially for those who may not be familiar?
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be with you. And so I'm Rose Hill. I'm a certified peer counselor specializing in trauma and crisis counseling. And my background is I have a master's in information science, and I'm currently completing my second master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I'm really focused on studying the intersection of AI and mental health. So broad snapshot of what AI is, artificial intelligence, also some are now calling it post-biological intelligence, refers to computer systems designed to perform daily tasks or any tasks that typically require human intelligence. And today's AI can engage in conversations, solve complex problems, and simulate human-like interaction. So while there's a lot of buzz about AI, I think what some people may not know is that AI has already moved beyond just being a tool and is becoming integrated into our daily lives in a way that it's already affecting how we think, feel, learn, and relate to others. And this is happening through the intersection of a lot of different parts of life. So for example, smartphones, social media algorithms, search engines, virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa, navigation apps, spam filters, automated customer service systems. All of these are already using AI to interact with us, really whether we agree or not. And so for better or worse, AI is already here and already impacting us on levels beyond what we can control. So I'm particularly focused on how AI intersects with mental health, trying to understand the positive and negative impacts on our mental well-being, trying to imagine into the long-term impacts, and trying to raise awareness that so that when we have awareness, we have more choice and we can retain our self-agency as much as possible.
Awesome. Can you explain how AI can be beneficial for people with disabilities?
Yeah, so there are so many great speakers at this conference. I was looking over the presenters, and it looks like a great group. And a lot of these speakers will go over the really powerful AI applications that can expand access for people with physical disabilities. So I really want to focus my answer on how AI can benefit people with mental health disabilities. Many chronic mental health disabilities, such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, these impact our relationships, often negatively, often in a way that is isolating for the person with the condition. And that isolation often fuels the condition itself. So we're in a kind of echo chamber in our mind without outside input. And so this creates a negative feedback loop where the worse we feel, the more we isolate, the worse we feel, the more we isolate with little to no emotional support. So AI chatbots can provide a stepping stone for people struggling with that isolation. They offer 24/7 support, emotional support in a low pressure environment. So for instance, for someone with social anxiety, having a space to work through anxious thoughts without fear of judgment can build confidence for real world interactions. For someone with PTSD, having immediate access to grounding techniques during a trigger response could help maintain emotional regulation. For someone with ADHD, AI tools can provide gentle reminders for daily tasks and help break down overwhelming projects into manageable steps. Those with bipolar disorder, for instance, might benefit from AI mood tracking that can help identify early warning signs of mood shifts, potentially identifying a manic episode before the person has any idea that it's about to happen. And the last example I'll give here is for individuals with depression who struggle with daily basic tasks. So AI can offer encouraging prompts and routine support without the shame some might feel asking humans for help with these basic tasks. But I want to be clear that AI should supplement and not replace human connection. The goal is really using AI as a bridge to help people build stronger real-world relationships and support networks while managing their mental health, not to keep them in technological isolation. So, when used thoughtfully, AI can help break that negative feedback loop of isolation and provide tools for better emotional regulation.
What are some potential risks or harmful effects of AI for people with disabilities?
Yeah, so as isolation fuels mental health conditions, there's a real risk that AI could enable rather than alleviate that isolation for some people. While AI can be a bridge to human connection, it could also become a substitute for it, especially since AI interactions can potentially feel safer and more predictable than human ones. And this could disproportionately affect those with disabilities and youth because those populations might rely more heavily on AI. So for individuals with anxiety or trauma responses, the perfectly attuned nature of AI responses could make human interaction feel increasingly difficult by comparison. For those with depression, the ease of AI interaction might reduce motivation to engage in real world relationships, and those relationships are crucial for recovery. People with ADHD might find the immediate gratification of AI interaction reinforcing attention patterns that make sustained human interaction more challenging. And additionally, there's what I call technological relational ruptures. So this is when AI systems fail or go offline. For someone using AI to manage anxiety or PTSD symptoms, for instance, these disruptions can be destabilizing. Imagine using AI for emotional regulation during a panic attack, then suddenly losing access to the AI. This could worsen the very symptoms that person is trying to manage. So finally, and this is really important, we don't fully understand, we can't fully understand the long-term psychological impact of emotional attachment to AI, especially for those already struggling with attachment or relational challenges. And, we're essentially conducting a real-time experiment in human psychology. And people with mental health disabilities may be particularly vulnerable to these long-term effects.
Oh, I definitely can see that. So, from your perspective, do AI programs in schools have the potential to enhance learning and create a more personalized educational experience for students?
I think they do. And, from a mental health lens, AI can definitely create more accessible learning environments. It can provide anxiety reducing private spaces to practice skills. It can offer unlimited patience for those who need to review material multiple times. It can easily adapt to different emotional states. For students with social anxiety in school, AI can offer that judgment-free space to practice class participation. For those with mental health conditions affecting concentration, AI can break down assignments into smaller, more manageable chunks and provide encouraging feedback. Students with ADHD might benefit from AI tools that adapt to their specific attention patterns and provide interactive, engaging ways to learn difficult concepts. And that's just a few examples. AI can be individualized to pretty much any mental health condition. But again, we need to be incredibly mindful that this technology is supporting rather than replacing human connection, because human connection is vital for mental health recovery and development.
Do you believe there's a risk of students becoming overly dependent on AI and leading to the lack of effort or critical thinking skills?
I do. Yes, this is particularly concerning from a mental health perspective. Beyond academic reliance in, just like a homework or teaching way, there's that emotional reliance piece to consider as well. When students, especially those with mental health challenges, form attachments to the AI that's helping them learn, it can impact their ability to develop healthy human relationships. Um, the the perfectly attuned responses that AI provides reduces or could replace the messiness of human interaction. But that messiness is actually crucial for developing emotional resilience and social skills. So along with the cognitive offloading that might academically occur, and I think it's very likely that the less we have to think about things, the less we develop critical thinking skills. Along with that, there's this emotional reliance that could generally lead to avoiding real world connections in favor of more comfortable AI interactions.
As educators and healthcare providers begin to integrate AI into their work, what are the key considerations they need to keep in mind to ensure its ethical and effective use?
So I think it's incredibly important to understand that AI cannot replace the therapeutic alliance, the human connection that's it's crucial for mental health treatment. It's also crucial within a classroom. Um, but I think it's also very important to highlight that in the if we're looking at mental health in this light, that not everyone has access to traditional mental health care, to that traditional therapeutic alliance. Therapy is expensive. Most people statistically cannot afford it. And often those with a lower socioeconomic status are the ones that need mental health support the most. So AI's potential in bringing access to people struggling with mental health disabilities who have previously not had any support or access, it's really immense. You know, anyone with a smartphone can interact with AI. But specifically in terms of what educators can do, this other piece that I think is so important to not lose sight of is that emotional attachment to AI can be particularly intense for individuals with certain mental health conditions and youth, especially mental health conditions involving attachment or trauma. And to support these individuals, I tend to think there are two essential pieces. First is focusing on teaching healthy boundaries with AI use. This is super essential with youth because they're still learning what relational attachment is. It's also essential for people who may rely more heavily on AI due to the access it creates. And then the second piece of this is having contingency plans for when AI tools are unavailable. This is particularly important for clients who rely on them for emotional regulation. Despite our best efforts to teach people that AI is not capable of having the same kind of relationship as a human, modern AI is designed to simulate and mimic human interaction, and it does an incredibly good job of it. This means that it's pretty much inevitable from my perspective that we will form an emotional attachment to AI. It's responding to all of our sort of biological cues that this being, this system with language, this system cares about me, this system can respond to me in a way that's attuned. So it's like kind of bypassing our thinking brain in some ways and speaking to our relational brain. So having a plan of how to take care of ourselves, how to take care of our students when there is no access or when access is suddenly unavailable, I think is really important.
Oh, definitely. And I can see exactly what you're saying about becoming dependent on it. I played around with some of the programs, and yeah, it definitely makes things a little bit easier, especially to correct things that I tend to write wrong.
Yeah.
And I can see where it would be like easy to use it all the time. But thank
Yes.
you so much for sharing this. And I think we need to take some questions from the audience. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Gentle starting us off with a question. She says, this is something I've wondered about when people talk about digital literacy. And I'm assuming that AI literacy would be included in that broader category. Perhaps digital literacy needs to look different for adults and for children. I read an interesting essay that recommends a dual approach to AI literacy, that adults should learn to view AI as human-like in many respects, but use caution, and that children should learn to view AI as a form of technology. What do you think about this dichotomy? By the way, here is the article.
Yeah, I think this raises, such an important thing for us to be considering. And when I think about digital literacy, so I do agree it would include AI literacy. And I think because we haven't been forced to kind of wade into the emotional realm of digital literacy all that much, I think AI is going to change that. I think the concept of digital emotional intelligence needs to be wrapped up in digital literacy now, because when you have something that appeals to your emotions and is really designed to appeal to your emotions, and this sounds a bit dark, but AI, in a world that's capitalistic, it's designed just like social media algorithms to capture your attention. So, and it also learns from what captures your attention. So the more a specific way of interacting with you, like, prolongs the interaction with the AI, the more it's going to interact like that. So it really is appealing to what you want and what you respond to. So we really need to dig into, we need to understand that about ourselves. We need to understand that we can be appealed to that way, that our emotions can be appealed to that way. So I just want to add that piece into digital literacy as being really essential. And then the other part of your question, the dual approach, that it should be different for adults and children. Yes, and so what I would say is, I think ultimately we all kind of need to reach the same level of digital literacy, including AI literacy. But I think that it's going to be particularly interesting for children right now who, the first time they get a smartphone, it will be completely in a AI run, essentially, right? So it's this weird thing of, like, kids are going to have a lot higher understanding of certain things than adults do, just because kids pick up technology so fast, but then also a lot lower levels of understanding of other things. So it's, I think ultimately we all kind of need to learn multiple components to become really literate and become able to stay safe with AI. But I think when we need to learn those things, kids are learning so many other things at the same time. So yeah, I don't know if that exactly answers that question. Oh, okay, I see. Also, you said that adults should view AI as human-like, and kids should view it as technology. Yeah, I will add to that, because I don't have a full answer, but I will add to that I think viewing it as human-like at all is kind of risky, just because that piece of the emotions, it is appealing to your emotions, and once your emotions are involved, we all know that, like, being in love, you do crazy things, right? And everybody just kind of justifies it. You're in love. Not necessarily saying, I'm sure people will fall in love with AI, but I'm not saying that exactly, but I'm saying that shows that when emotions are in charge, we will do crazy things. So I think that we need to keep a firm grasp that it is technology and not human. Yeah, but I will be thinking about that more, and I definitely want to check out that article. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting. War Hong Jun asked a question. Could we not look at the use of Second Life as similar to the use of AI? And are there lessons that we have learned to apply to overall tech use?
Great question. So I think there are similarities, but I think the biggest difference is in Second Life, we're talking to other people. So we have an avatar that's a representation of ourselves, but the person, that we're talking with, all of you, right, you're other people that we're talking with. So I would still categorize the type of relationship we develop as an entirely human relationship that's perhaps virtual assisted. Whereas with AI, you are not talking to a human. So, I know I'm really focusing heavily on the relational lens here, but I think this is one of the it's going to be one of the biggest impacts in my opinion, and it's one of the hardest to really wrap our heads around, just because there isn't really a parallel that we've never had a technology that can think on its own and have a conversation with us. It's just so outside of what we understand. So I think when things will get really kind of strange in Second Life is when AI avatars are more, they might, be more common even than humans in Second Life. And I will say that having met a couple AI avatars in Second Life, I think Second Life should have some kind of distinguishing feature in the name of those, some way to easily identify that this is AI or not. Because again, relational attachments will inevitably form with AI, and it's, I think, better to know whether you're speaking with a human or AI. Thank you for that question.
I had somebody ask me a question, and I'm just gonna say it. They wanted to know if we will eventually have conversations with AI, and is this a slippery slope to friendships? And do you think eventually the access will not be a problem, as it seems to be the most serious downside, losing access when we become dependent?
Yeah, so eventually have conversations with AI. I might be misunderstanding that question, but the way I'm understanding it, we can already do that. And there are quite a few, like ChatGPT and the big ones are, you can ask it anything, and it's kind of based on ask it code or whatever. But there's a lot of websites where the only purpose is to have conversations with AI. That's it. And the AI takes on essentially different characters. Probably the most common one is character AI, which we have already seen that lead to some really, really negative consequences. Yeah, in fact, there's a news article right now about character AI, which is kind of changing that landscape, where a 14-year-old, I don't know, am I allowed to say? So, he killed himself talking to an AI chatbot on there. And so I think it just points to how serious these, emotional attachments are. Yeah, and then about the disruption in relational, disruptions, I think we'll probably have redundant systems. So, if one goes down, we can look at another. But I think that also, and I know we're running up against time, but I think that also points to energy consumption. I read actually yesterday that a single 100-word email generated by AI is the equivalent of pouring out one bottle of water, because AI takes both water and energy run the the computer systems that it's on. So I think we're really going to be up against just the massive amount of energy that AI consumes.
Let's see, I'm going to go back a little bit. Mook asked a question. One danger is that personalized AI companions are essentially programmable. These AI companions are already out there. You remove what you don't like, you put in what you want. You are creating a fantasy echo chamber that will move you further and further away from real people who are much less predictable and more messy. Young people have already hugely embraced AI use, more than older generations. Have you noticed any effects of this possible danger with young people since 2022?
Yes, this is, I think, such an important question, and I really agree. This concept of a fantasy echo chamber, right? We take out the pieces we don't like, and that's if we're programming it, and then beyond that, the AI itself is learning what we don't like. It's learning what we like. It's learning how to cater to us very specifically and personally. And I think young people are at the highest risk of this negatively affecting them because they're just learning how to have relationships, right? They don't know what's normal in a relationship. And you pair that with the fact that most relationships that are not with the people you live with in your house take place primarily digitally. So texting, social media, DMs, Facebook, all of this, like most of your relationship is through text already for a young person. So then when you have a screen that looks exactly the same when you're texting an AI versus when you're texting a real person, I think it would be extremely hard for a young person to be able to clearly understand these two things are different as opposed to these two things are the same. And then in terms of the danger, I mentioned that really tragic case that happened just recently with character AI. And the only reason we know about that case is because the family is suing character AI, which is resulting in a lot of things. And I think, that's how AI will be legislated is probably through tragedies and lawsuits, if there's even time for that. But I think the danger is really real because I think we all remember being a teenager and how emotionally overwhelming that is. If human relationships are too hard, AI relationships will always be there. And the other flip side is that AI is not perfect, right? It can say wild things. I actually caught the end of the presentation before where they were talking about a Gemini. Gemini responded to someone essentially saying, go die. And so it's like there's AI hallucinations that are had. AI can just say random things. So imagine you're talking and you're emotionally attached to an AI and then it just suddenly says something terrible to you. That could be extremely hard for a teenager to be able to handle.
Gentle posted a reference to a CNN article about that suicide. Tragic. Exie says we absolutely need AI markers, color of name or something. Now we are getting close to the end of this session. We're at the top of the hour, a little bit past. Was there something final that you wanted to say about those comments?
Not particularly. I think this is such a huge topic and there's so many avenues to go down. But I really appreciate being here, and I do want to share that I'm always open to conversation. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to talk more about any of this, because ultimately I think we don't know. We can't know, and I think bringing more awareness and asking more questions is one of the best things we can be doing right now.
Thank you again, Rose, for being here and shedding light on this. Oh my gosh, it's such an eye-opener, and it's scary too. I think of my grandkids, and think about them and the stuff that they're using, and I'm like going, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
it is something really for people to, watch, that's for sure. Anyway, maybe we can organize another discussion soon, because I would love to, be able to sit down and talk some more about it.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you, Andy. I so appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you.